What is up, y'all? It's your girl Jazz from All That Jazz. I started one part of this series. I'll call this the Singleness series. And the first video was somewhat just kind of a rant about challenges that I feel like I've faced being single, and especially from like people in my life that want me to be in a relationship, have tried to encourage me along the lines of my singleness. The first video was just kind of me explaining some of the challenges that I've had and experienced since being single. But I kind of want to take a slightly different approach. I'd like to do two more videos. One talking about like the advantages and the joy that I get in being single, and then follow up with another challenges and hardships of what it's like being single and for so long into now my 30s. So this video is the joys, I guess, that I have had, or the upsides of being single and for as long as I have. So that being said, I have no notes. I'm just going off the dome and just kind of whatever first comes to mind. So it's really just free flow rant per usual. So one of the first things that I feel like I've really enjoyed about being single is that I do think it's given me the opportunity to learn who I am. Now, I made another video sometime back talking about confidence and where I think confidence really comes from. That I feel like overall I would consider myself a confident person. And I think that the lack of outside influence from being in a romantic relationship has given me the opportunity to build, for one, have the time to like learn about myself as a woman, my likes, dislikes, strengths, weaknesses, so on and so forth. But I think it also has given me the freedom to be myself without alteration. And that is really the best thing that I could say I think comes out of singleness, is like, it's not just physical freedom where you can, move about as you want to, though I think that's a thing as well. As I hear from, married people who have a spouse and have children, they have people they need to consider before they do anything. And that is a huge transition from what I get to experience as a single person. I don't really have to consider anyone else when it comes to the decisions that I make. Not out of necessity. I could do that out of like courtesy, but not necessity. But I think the other freedom that comes with it is emotional freedom. So if I decided that tomorrow I'm gonna dye my hair, there is emotional bandwidth for me to try anything, do anything if I want to, and not really feel constrained because of someone else's opinion of what I should and shouldn't do. Obviously outside of, number one, my relationship with the Lord. Number two, other people in my life who might be like, hey, Jazz, that might not be the best decision, or probably shouldn't do this, probably shouldn't do that. But I think what happens in a relationship is that you're so focused, and let me say, especially in marriage, but I do think that this can happen even in dating or even in like a serious relationship, where you do need to consider the other person, everything from what activities they like to do, so that both of you guys are being fulfilled in the relationship and it's not just one-sided. Or how you guys like to spend your time. I have this with friends. I have some friends that are very outgoing, and they like to try new things and do new things. And so when we spend space and time, often I feel like we have to find a middle ground to where I'm willing to get out of my comfort zone and do things that they enjoy doing, but not to the point where I just feel like I'm never enjoying my life how I like to and kind of being low key. So I can imagine it being that much more in a romantic relationship where you really have to consider the other person. Everything from how you spend time to what they like and what they don't like, and I just feel like in a romantic relationship, so much of your time is geared towards being appealing to the person you're in a relationship with. And that can be a wonderful thing because it shows you selflessness and a willingness to like consider someone else. But I also feel like, especially for a lot of women who don't feel fulfilled in their relationships, there's so much intentionality and so much pouring out that I feel like it is very likely that women lose themselves in relationships, even if they're not married. But losing themselves in relationships so that way they can appeal to the man that they're with. And I think that that's been one of the trade-offs, that being a single woman and being single for so long, I don't find myself like trying to appeal to a man in every fashion. You know, do I want for a man to find me, whether it's physically attractive, spiritually attractive, emotionally attractive? Yes, those things. But I don't, the basis of those decisions is not because a man will or will not like it. It's really about me having peace in those decisions at the end of the day. So everything from like, I like to dress comfortable and relax. I have my times where I like to get dressed up, but if I were in a relationship with a man who he's like, hey, I like when you get dressed up more of the time, that's a consideration. And you know, that's just one example, but from doing that to getting out of the house more to you know, day-to-day considerations, I think that that can really take a toll on a person and how they feel, especially if they feel like they're pouring that out, but it's not being poured back into them. And so I think that there's just an emotional freedom that has come with being single. Another thing is, I think it's something so freeing about not being negatively impacted by someone else, right? So, and let's just be real. I don't think that men are any less prone to heartbreak from women, because, you know, there's other ways that women can impact men and, you know, hurt their hearts and all sorts of things. But I do feel like women tend to be more vulnerable to the decisions that men make. And I think it's pretty prevalent that women can often be cheated on because men are cheating in relationships. Not all, obviously, but everything from being cheated on to, you know, your boyfriend looking at other women, constantly feeling like you need to keep up with another woman because she's getting his attention and you're not, or it just him losing interest. I mean, everything. I just feel like there are so many emotional tolls that a relationship can take on anyone. But right now, I'm a woman, so I'm speaking from a woman's point of view and not from what I could imagine that men go through. But like those emotional tolls, I know so many women who have been in relationships, are in relationships, and their self-esteem has tanked. And it's because of the fact that they are trying to compete with every other woman that this man glances at every time that they're out in public. Or, you know, they're constantly trying to get his attention and maintain it. And I feel like that's something that is just, it's too heavy for a woman to bear. And I find freedom in the fact that I don't feel emotionally worn down because I've ever let a man like impact me that greatly. And I don't say this to like brag, because there are obviously real hardships that come with being single, real challenges, real loneliness, you know, all of those things. But I do feel like there is a joy at times in being a single woman, and these are some of them. Another thing is the freedom every single month. I am not worried, fearful, or concerned about unwanted pregnancy. I'm not worried about STDs, by God's grace. I'm not worried about being in an abusive relationship. Like, and I feel like actually I could feel a shift happening right now as I talk about this, because I really have had an increasing heart for young women who are just like rushing into being into a relationship. I would like to say that I feel like I'm really level-headed and right in the middle. I feel like a relationship that is given to you by God, and one where you emotionally and in every other way have prepared yourself to be in a relationship, is a blessing and a beautiful thing. I will not be a mouthpiece for the enemy and discourage relationships, discourage marriage, discourage God's plan and design for man and woman. I will not do that. But what I will say is this. I feel like there is so much that I see women enduring especially young women. And they don't have to because they're in relationships with the wrong men. The gift that it is for me to come home and have a safe home to come to and to not be in a relationship with a man who's putting his hands on me, to be able to come home and know that I do have control over the financial situation, and I'm not taking care of a man who is just sitting on the couch or being a beneficiary of my hard work when I go to work and I come home. Like, to know that there is peace. There is something that you cannot fake peace. And to know that I can come home and have that. There are women who I know that face to face, and when we're out in public, might feel like they have a one-up on me because they have a man. And you'll hear many women say that. They're like, at least I have a man. That same man that brought home an STD. That same man who puts their hands on them. That same man that is financially manipulative and controlling. That same man that talks down to them. That same man that has another woman on the side. And that woman is crying at night because of that man. Like, the same women that will go around and make single women feel like you're lonely or you are lesser than because you haven't been chosen. Because I think that at the root of it, that's really what it is. It's like, no one's chosen you. You're single because you're not good enough to be chosen by a man. When the reality is that you've probably had men approach you. You've probably had someone ask you on a date and ask potentially even to marry you, and you, for whatever the reason, didn't feel like that was the man that you wanted to be with. And so now you find yourself in a certain season of your life where you're like, I could say wholeheartedly for myself, I'm single now still because I've been approached by men. I've been in relationship with men. But at the end of the day, I've yet to meet a man that I enjoy, honestly, being with more than I enjoy the peace that comes with being by myself. And not just that. I wrote a song years ago. I think I was 18, and the song was called Still Be There. And I remember writing this line. It's very simple, but it was, I'll be better off with him than I am apart. I've yet to meet a man that I feel like my life is better because I'm with him than it is me being by myself. And I feel like if that's the bar, why lower it? If that's the bar, and I'm not saying like I need to have these superficial standards. I'm not saying that I need a man. I'm 5'2.5". I don't need a man that is 7 feet tall. That's not the standard. I'm not saying that I need a man who's a millionaire. That's not the standard. But am I emotionally, spiritually, financially brought down because you're in my life? And unfortunately, when I panel around and I see women in my close vicinity, I know more women who the quality of their life, their emotional state and well-being has tanked since they've been in a relationship with the man that they're with. Yet they have a man. But the social cue and the social status is that when you look and you see that single woman, you think she can't get a man. No, that's not the issue. She can get a man. She doesn't want just any man. Because through seasons where she did want a man and he didn't show up, she learned how to enjoy her life. She learned how to love God first, and that he is actually the ultimate husband because he loves every curve and perfection, every creation of who you are. He loves you, and you don't have to compete for someone else. He has this pursuing love that never stops pursuing you. And when you've experienced that, it's kind of like, husband who? Now, don't get me wrong, I'm going to make a part 3 to this, because in the third part, I'll address the desires that I have personally and that I think other singles could probably relate to in wanting to get married. But what I am saying is that I think something that happens is there's a level of contentment, a level of peace that comes upon the life of a woman who's learned how to weather being single. And then you get to a point where you're like, man, it's not about money. It's not about status. It's about peace. And most men that I have been around cannot offer me a greater level of peace than I have by myself. And that's huge, because peace wears away at you when you don't have it, day in and day out. And I think that right there is the number one thing that makes marriage and relationships so challenging and detrimental even to women who don't have it. It's the lack of peace. It's that they wake up every day and they feel emotionally burdened in a relationship where they don't feel like there is equal input from the man and the woman. It's kind of like, I'm doing all the emotional lifting in this relationship. I'm the one that is, spearheading, taking care of the kids and taking care of the home, while he just emotionally coasts. And it wears women out. And I think that there is a point where you just get to this realization of like, I enjoy the peace that I have in my life by not having to compromise in all of these areas. And unless and until I find a man that's willing to do the work as well, it's worth staying in this place. I know I went on a little rant just now. But I think the other thing I enjoy about being single is that, you could do anything. And there's so many open doors and opportunity. And that's part of why I've been wanting to take advantage of this time to like make the videos and be a little sleep deprived and do a little bit more, because it's like, I desire one day to be married and to have children. But right now, I don't have that. So it's like, why not make the videos and travel to the places and take advantage of the job opportunities and do all of the ministry things? Like, why not now? Because there will probably never be a freer season of my life than right now. This is the time to do it. And I also just think that, like, I'm in a place where I do feel like I have a better understanding of who I am now. And I enjoy that. And I can be honest and say that I don't think I'm really ready to change that yet, so that I could accommodate a relationship. And maybe I will be at some point soon, or maybe it will just take the motivation of being, around the right man. But right now, I'm like excited to invest in me in a way that I haven't, either A, in a long time, or B, potentially never. And so I just think that there's a lot of joys that can come with being single. And the greatest thing that I think I've learned is that there is immense peace in being single. My heart hurts for the women that are in relationships because it's a social status, but yet their soul is hurting. And I think that if you can, especially as a woman, if you can endure the social, I don't want to say turmoil is too strong, but if you can endure the social, like, mark of what it looks like to be a single woman, because let's be real, it doesn't look good to be a single woman past a certain point. It doesn't look empowering or whatever else. It looks like you simply were not chosen, that you were overlooked, that you are just not good enough. That's the social way that people look at a single woman. But if you can get to a point where you're okay with enduring that and you don't care about what people's thought process is, but you know that when you lay your head down at night, you're like, man, I'm so glad that I'm not in a relationship where I'm enduring. And the reality is I think most relationships are. I think it's a one-off and very few that you have relationships where men and women feel really legitimately fulfilled from one another. And even that takes immense work. But I think if most women especially were honest, they feel drained from their marriages. They feel drained from their romantic relationships. They feel like they're auditioning consistently and they don't feel secure. And what a privilege it is as a woman to feel like, I wore this outfit for me. I, am not auditioning for love because I already have it. Oh, that's a word right there. I'm not auditioning for a man's love because I already have God's love. And then he is teaching me day by day how to love me. And loving me sometimes can look like discipline. I've heard this quote and I really like it, that the highest form of self-love is discipline. But sometimes self-love looks like acceptance. In a world full of rejection, to love you is one of the best things that you could ever do. I know that for the length of my hair, right now it's twisted, but for the length of my hair, someone will reject it. For the color of my skin, or the fact that I'm black, or whatever, there's rejection left and right from people with preferences. But I'm thankful that I'm not auditioning for them to receive me. I love who I am. And that doesn't mean that every day I'm I look amazing. I just got back from a walk. I don't really look great right now. But I am always beautiful. And I think that if there's something I wish that I could impart into other women, but and this could be for women of all ages. It doesn't just have to be women younger than me, because there's a woman that comes to my mind that I work with her, and I'll tell her story. I won't say her name, of course. She is a few years older than me, and I've watched her now for several years. And she's been in a relationship. I don't know if she's still in it. I feel like she might still be, but I know years back she was in a relationship, and this man she gave so many of her good years to him. I think she said she was with him for about 20 years. She knew him since high school. I think they met at 14 or 15. She was in a relationship with him since the age of 15 or 16. And now I think she's 35. Maybe she may even be 37 by now. And she was I've been in this relationship with him for 20 years. And he is convinced he doesn't want to get married. He doesn't believe in marriage. And I asked her, I'm well, do you? And she's yeah, I believe in marriage. She was I feel I'm too old to be someone's girlfriend. I feel I should be a wife by now. And I remember a few years ago, I think she was really mourning the fact that she hadn't been married, and that even more than that she hadn't had children. And I think now she's at a point where I feel there's this heavy spirit of depression that's on her, because life turned out very differently than she intended it to go. And imagine the investment that she put in this relationship, cooking for this man and being with this man. I remember she told me shortly after I had moved to Dallas, she told me, she was I've never, been on my own. She was the whole time that I've been on, as an adult, moved out of my parents' house, I've lived with my boyfriend. She's I don't even know what it feels like to live by myself. And she's I feel so stunted and so behind in life. And I told her, I'm you're not behind. Again, that question, behind who? However, if that's something that you want, you can have it. You can make that happen for yourself. But I told her, I said, you have to decide. Are you going to let this man continue to waste your time? And at a certain point, the question is, are you going to keep wasting your own? Or are you going to get up and get out of that relationship? Because if he says that he doesn't want to be married, whether that's he doesn't want to be married in general, or that's he's decided in his heart he doesn't want to be married to you. And that's hard to hear because you love him. And that's why you've spent your space and time waiting for him to change his mind. But now you have to change your own. These are the things that I wish I could tell her. But I look at her, and I know for a while she was the type of woman I would hear make those comments. At least I have a man. At least I'm not single. Until a certain point turns and you realize I would have been better off single. I would have been better off because that man is blocking. He's a placeholder, but he's actually blocking the man that's for you from coming into your life, because that spot is not vacant anymore, but it's taken by a man that has no intent to give to you but to take from you. And so I just would like to say, over the years, Even though my desire for marriage and relationship has varied in different seasons, it's never gone away. It's not like I could say I just do not desire to be in a relationship. I just do not desire to be married. That's not true. I want a husband. But I also realize that it is a gift to be single, especially when I look at what the trade-off has been for so many women. The trade-off being heartache in different packages. Single motherhood is heartache. Dealing with lifelong STDs, that's heartache. Being emotionally drained and questioning yourself and your confidence and your self-esteem, that's heartache. And I'm thankful that how God has preserved me from a lot of the wrong men. I don't say this to brag. I say this to either encourage younger women to do the same. When you give your life to the Lord and you let Him direct you, don't make relationships the first and foremost. Because more than not, those relationships will take far more from you than they'll ever give, unless God is the one that's placed that man in your life. But secondly, for women who feel like you're 35, you're 38, you're 42, you're 53, who cares? And you've been in this relationship for the longest, and it's taken from you your confidence. It's taken from you your purity. Yes, purity. Like you, and I'm not just talking about you were a virgin. I'm talking about now, let's say you were walking right with the Lord, and then you went back into fornication because of this relationship. There is cleanliness, there is purity, there is renewal in Christ. Go back to Him. I feel this is an anointed message, because I was intending on leaving this to be a 10-minute video, and it started off with me, things I like about being single. But I realized that God has ministered many things to me in the time that I've been single. And there were times where I cried because I looked around and I said, but everyone else is in a relationship. God, why have you overlooked me? And now, God, I look back and I say, thank you, Lord, that you didn't let that relationship work out, that you didn't let me be in that relationship with that man, because I look back and I see he didn't have good intentions. I look back and I see that I wasn't mature enough. I look back and I see that it wouldn't have turned out well. It would have been a waste of my time, a waste of my heart. And I thank God for His preservation. And even if you've moved aside from what God's will was, go back to Him, because He's the only one that will love you in fullness. He's the only one that will love you rightly and never hurt the heart that you give Him. He is the only safe place to give the fullness of your heart, all your hopes, your dreams, all your fears and concerns. Your life is safe in His hands. Oh God. So I just encourage you, women, if you're with a man, and first of all, if he's not your husband, I'm not talking to those that are married, because that's a separate message, and I think it would require a woman who is married to really speak to that. I'm speaking to the singles as a single, but to someone who's been in a long-term relationship, he's your boyfriend of 10 years, he's had enough time to make a decision. So now it's time for you to make a decision. Will you let him keep wasting your good years when there could be a good man down the street? And maybe it's not even about a good man. Because you know, right now you could be saying, well, I'm scared to get out of a relationship. I'm scared to not be with him because we've been together for so long. What has come from it? You're probably more insecure with every passing year that you're with him and he doesn't commit to you. You're more insecure now than you were when you started. What do you have to lose? Nothing. If anything, you have a lot to gain. And it might be a whole new man, or it might be a whole new perspective. So, yeah, these are the things that I love, though, about being single. There are obviously lighthearted ones, like, I don't know, I get the entire bed to myself, or I wake up and it's completely quiet. There are no children waking me up. There are no, sometimes I like to joke with my mom. My parents have been married for, I think, 30 something years. I'm not sure the exact amount, but well, obviously it has to be, because if I'm 30. But what's it called? My mom, she often tells me, she's like, your dad, he wakes up, and as soon as he wakes up, he's hungry. And my mom is like, I could go till about noon or 1 p.m. and I don't have to cook anything. But if it wasn't for your dad, I wouldn't have to be cooking at 9 a.m. or earlier. And I laugh and I joke, and there's a joy that comes with being married. But I also think that the joy of being single is, if I'm not ready to eat, there's no one I have to cook for. So other lighthearted things like that. But the real weight of it is this: by God's grace, I haven't had to compromise any of my self-esteem for the attention of a man, because it's never worth it. Your self-love is never worth the love for a man. And that's not to demean or diminish men, but it is to say that that is the truth. And that is the price that a lot of women are paying, is that they look in the mirror and they no longer recognize and or love themselves, because they've been trying to attain the love of a man, and it's never worth it. So tune back in, my goodness, for part 3, when I tell you guys the things that are difficult about being single. And yeah, you'll learn about that on the next All That Jazz. Peace out.